Hello, everyone. Hi, and welcome to The Bridge, an interview series by Talent at Web3, where we speak with Web3 founders in Asia and Z to understand why they are building in Web3. My name's Nigel, and today we have Nathanael, or Nat, with us today. Hey, Nat. Off cam, you mentioned that you were a lawyer for 10 years, and then you discovered Web3, and now you're building in Web3. Tell us more about that. What is your Web3 origin story?
Yeah, hi everyone. Hi Nigel. Thanks for having me today. So like they said, I started as a lawyer and I was practicing the whole private equity, VC, M&A, and tech startup kind of phase. Did about $1 billion in deal size altogether. But I also was working a lot with tech companies because in fundraising and VC, they work a lot with tech companies. And from 2016 to 2017, I also had a lot of friends in tech. And many of them were exploring crypto. There was a point in time where they had to find a lawyer to represent them because crypto was getting a bit more legitimate. And I was a friend and they were like, why don't you help us? So I started from there working in the ICO. That was 2016, 2017, the whole ICO phase, moving on to DeFi, worked with companies like Huobi, Binance, and various companies across the world in their either crypto, Web3 kind of deals. And as I saw the trend move, I was getting more and more excited about what they were doing. And I knew that I had to step into this area sooner or later. So after 10 years of working in the legal industry, I figured it was time to move on and push myself to a different area of growth.
Awesome. But okay, my understanding or my impressions of lawyers are very practical, very logical. You don't like the bullshit. What about Web3? Did you see that, okay, this is, as you mentioned, becoming more legitimate now? Why do you think it's a good space to be in?
Yeah, that's actually a not tension point, but a very clear character difference we see amongst the founding team in Avium. Even I think the exact obstacle or concern is the exact opportunity. The whole crypto market, Web3, has been generally is heavily unregulated. You don't have the same scrutiny as with the traditional net TradFi, and because of that, there are some there's flexibility or there is obviously the opportunity for bad actors. I think that very concern is the very same opportunity for legitimate entrepreneurs who are really building for the better to step in to improve the industry. So in the early days when knowledge is still a gap, I think, and this is similar for every industry that starts, at the early stage of knowledge gap, it's where bad actors can thrive, but at the same time is where good actors can step in to take that opportunity to consolidate and really define the next generation of businesses.
Interesting. And you found, and you want to be one of those good actors, and I assume.
I guess probably by occupational hazard as well. We have to follow the law. We have to be legal.
In that case, out of all the Web3 sectors, I guess, which part of the Web3 space are you building in and why?
I think we took some time to understand what Web3 means. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking a technology is the product. And they've done this, in many, many seeds, right? So if you think of the .com boom, a website used to be the product. And if you launch a website, you would raise at a crazy valuation. And then during the whole .com boom and bust, people realized that, 15 years later, we realized that, hey, websites aren't a product, it's a technology, right? I think even at crypto, like cryptographic and token technology, be it in coins or in NFTs, I think these are products and these are technologies, and it's a vehicle to kind of deliver value. So for us, really understanding what Web3 enabled and what we could do with it was important to decide which business we were going towards. And I think what we saw, at least as of today, is that Web3 is a way of putting a certain asset in people's hands to own a part of something which the market values. Where in the business does that pertain to? What kind of business does it pertain to? Our thesis is that it applies a lot to what we call the attention economy and brand equity. So the business we are building generally pertains towards that whole industry.
Interesting. So it's giving assets to the hands of people, but that isn't new, right? It's totally possible to create a financial instrument to do something like that. Why do you think Web3 is different?
That's correct. So I think I like to describe Web3 as a combination of what I call technology adoption and cultural movement. You're absolutely right. I mean, you think of blockchain technology, right? Blockchain technology has existed many, many years ago, right? But for the first time in the last 2 years, we're seeing a huge exchange of value purely based on code. So in the past, as a lawyer, I'll advise you, if you want to verify ownership, make sure it's either in his pocket, this is my phone, I own it in the pocket, or the wallet's in my pocket, or a government industry, right? Authority. You own a house, you have the land titles deed. I think crypto technology was around, but for the first time, we see the market validating it in terms of the huge exchange of money purely based on code. So it is both technology adoption as well as cultural movement. I think at this time, if you look at where value is accruing, in a number of the top Web3 or NFT projects, it has a lot to do with what I call brand equity. Why is, a monkey worth so much? It doesn't make sense. Why is a picture of, an anime-looking character, Azuki, worth so much? I think it's quite closely tied to the brand equity. I think if you want to bring it to a Web2 analogy, if you look at a balance sheet and where companies look at what they call intangible assets or goodwill, I think NFTs for the first time give an indicator or a proxy of what that brand equity is, validated by market and social valuation.
In that case, why are you so interested in this problem? What does this unlock for you now that you can digitally own stuff?
So we looked at a number of problem statements in the industry, and going back to the attention economy, I think we've seen an evolution in this, what I call it, attention economy, right? If you think of when the internet first started, it was about reach. If I have a blog post and I put Google ads, and I reach X number of people, I get paid, right? And then we saw that dying down, like just purely mass attention was dying. And then they moved to what I call targeted attention, where you would say, okay, this is a 30-year-old guy, he has 2 dogs, let me send him advertisements of dog food, right? It was targeted attention looking for reaction. So mass attention looking for reach, moving to targeted attention looking for reaction. I think we are seeing that evolve. People are getting a bit more savvy that they are the product, they're being monetized, their time and attention is being monetized. There's this whole privacy movement, right? And I think the big advertisers are finding that just having mass attention, even target attention, may not lead to conversion. I think at the brink of what we saw at Web2 was small communities or more relational communities coming together to talk about and to push products. And basically, I think the example I will use is that if you were to buy a set of headphones, you actually wouldn't Google it more than you would go to Reddit to see what people were talking about. There was a rise of the whole micro-influencer. And I think what Web3 enabled was, how do we build communities? How do we align incentives among the people in the community, knowing that, that we have the interest at heart? What can I put in their hands so that my success equals their success? I think on a very high level, this is what Web3, that's the theory on the thesis of what Web3 can do. And that's exactly the playbook Avium is trying to figure out and bring to market.
Interesting. So if I understand that correctly, you're saying Web3 is essentially the ad economy, but even more targeted, even more specific.
I think Web3 is the attention economy, which has traditionally been monetized through advertisements and sponsorship, traditionally. Right? Okay. But now we are moving towards an alignment between finding your 1,000 or 10,000 true advocates and true supporters that benefit from the product and aligning interests so that you can succeed together. I think that is the cultural movement or the social movement of Web3.
Interesting. There's a lot of questions I want to ask there. Like, for example, does it mean that there will be no more big winners and value will just be fragmented across different small micro communities and therefore micro brand leaders? or rather there will still be consolidation and stuff like that. Yeah, maybe something there. But it feels like this feels like a big topic overall.
I think so. I think what we see today is that there are, a lot of centralization, right? Think of the major distributors of media. There are only six, Apple TV, Netflix, so on and so forth, right? I think even in the media scene, for example, it's really hard for a creator to succeed and to make it big. You are actually drowned out by a lot of noise because you have unlimited content being created because of technology, facing saturated and very scarce and limited attention because 24 hours a day is 24 hours a day. I think, can we change the fragmented economics of a winner-takes-all kind of pyramid and the current economic scene and bring some of that value down to be shared across a larger class of people? I think that is what potentially Web3 technology enables people to do together with the social movement.
Okay, got it. So let's round this out before we go specific into Avium then and how you're fixing it. What is broken with, as you say, the attention economy, and how are you trying to fix it, or what problem are you trying to tackle?
Yeah, so where the current economy is broken is that there's a lot of centralization to a number of main platforms, which is not a problem in that sense. More the fact that I think the risk reward ratio across both parties are not aligned correctly. Okay, this is sounding a bit technical. I can appreciate it's a bit technical, but just let me break this down slowly. When a media studio goes to Netflix or a distributor or publishing house, what happens is that when they negotiate a deal, what they usually do is to give up 90% of the rights. They get a 10% royalty at max and maybe some upfront kind of revenue for the licensing fee. And then the distributor takes all the rights. The reason why this happens is because when the distributor goes to market, they can't confirm that it will be a success. We've seen kind of A-list movies, huge budget, still not doing well. Right? There is that imbalance. So is it fair or unfair? I think the fact is that both sides have some struggles. I think what Web3 and the thesis we have is that when you build from the community, and we use a lot of examples. So Reese Witherspoon is a great example. Reese Witherspoon actually has a book club. At the same time, she also has a publishing house, publishing studio. And what she does is every time there's a script, she brings it to a book club to kind of go through the script and get their feedback and ideas. She tweaks them, and then the publishing studio obviously publishes it. And she said it very clearly. She'd rather have 1 million true fans who enjoy it rather than 100 million who kind of don't really enjoy it. And the process of getting the community involved, helping her to publish it as well, aligns that interest, and they find that true fans. I think Avium's looking at that. How to use Web3 to allow the community to own, and when I say own, it may not only be financial ownership, right? To own the process of bringing the movie to the big screens, or their esports teams, or their games, so that at the start, at least you have the first 10,000 fans. You obviously have to be a good movie. You obviously, need to have certain kind of marketing plans as well. But you solve that 0 to 1, 1 to 10,000 kind of plan. And every content creator will tell you that the first 10,000 people are always the hardest to find. And after that, there's a bit more of that snowball effect. I think from a broad industry point of view, this is the problem statement we're looking at. And what Avium is doing is building the ecosystem of the right stakeholders to address this problem.
Nat, you were talking about Avium, the ecosystem that you've built. Can you give us an overview of what exactly is Avium?
Okay, I think the one-liner is that Avium is a gaming and media publisher. We are combining esports teams with media and animation studios and game studios and bringing them to Web3 so that they can publish with the community that they are targeting. That's kind of the one-liner. Many things to kind of break down. And if you look at the overall thesis, I think there are 3 different pillars. We are working with animation studios who create amazing and great content. We're already working with 2 full-time studios. It's Circle, so shout out to Circle Studio, as well as Caravan Studio. They're doing the art and the animation behind all of Avium. we're actually publishing our own IP series, an original IP series, an animation series that one day will go to the big screens. And that's what they've been working on. We've actually onboarded close to 4 to 5 esports teams as well that will play under the banner or with the banner of Avium. Our esports arm is called Slate. We're also talking to a media network which will hopefully come on board to bring aboard social media channels and social media content creators to build together with Avium.
Got it. Okay, and just for the people who aren't super familiar with the value chain of a game studio or a media studio or animation studio, could you talk us through an example? Like, pick whatever real life example you're willing to share. What exactly would have been their journey in Web 2? And which part of that journey does Avium go into, and then how does it relate to Web 3?
So I think one of the challenges, let's use the animation studios and media studios in Southeast Asia currently. I think one of the pain points is that a lot of them are what we call outsourced studios. So the studios you're working with have great talent, amazing talent. They've worked with Lego, with Disney, with Marvel, the Dota series, Valve. And these are internationally recognized brand assets and brand media, right? But because they are outsourced, generally they are left with doing the work, and they are basically outsourced agencies. A lot of them dream of making their own IP, but I think from a cost perspective, there's quite a bit of investment today in building their IP, right? So what usually happens is that they may spend some time putting together the IP Bible, which is a compendium of the storyline, some of the characters, some of the lore, and they'll build up to some degree. And they will take that and either go to a publisher studio or go straight to a distributor to try and negotiate and say, hey, this is what we've done. How do you like it? Some of them may take the free to air. So they may, if they have a bit more cash to invest, they may invest in building up some of the assets, going to free to air, and then taking that route again to go to negotiate a deal with the distributors. What happens at the distributor or publisher stage is that because of risk-reward economics, it's hard for the studios to get a good deal. They may sign away all their rights and get a 10% royalty and a one-time payment. And because of that, and the fact of the matter is that a lot of power is aggregated at the distributor level because they get 10,000 of ideas, and the chances of being rejected is high by a matter of percentage. And therefore, a lot of studios which try to go down this path finds that the risk-reward ratio is not optimal. So it's really hard to produce. I think that's a function of the fact that there's so much content and attention is scarce. What Web3 tries to do is that it tries to find, or what Avium tries to do via Web3, right, is that it finds the true community that enjoys and wants to interact with your content by placing an NFT in their hand, which is meant to be a reflection of the brand equity of that very asset we are promoting. If they give the attention to it and they help it to succeed, and it does succeed, then there's an alignment of incentive between the viewer, the community member who owns a part of it, and the studio who wants to publish it. And they can succeed together. I think in a nutshell, that's the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 and how we see things playing out.
Got it. And just to take a step back, in the Web 2 model, when you mentioned the studio versus the distributor, I think a key part of this is that distributors, they're the ones who have the relationship with the end user right now, like the viewers, the people who use the product, etc. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I think in Web 2, we saw a model called direct to consumer. And then when we take out a middleman, I think in Web 3, it is something like that, but I think we call it direct to community. So you can reach out to your community, build that relationship, incentivize them as well, align that benefit, and you're direct to the community. Instead of 1 million, instead of 10 or 100 million kind of peripheral fans, you start with your 1 million true fans and build from there.
Got it. And Avium is, you go direct to the studios, and then you help them find this community, and then you help them create the NFTs that signify that relationship between an end user and the studio. Is that right?
That is exactly correct. This is the very playbook we are trying to prove. We're in a stage where I call, instead of product market fit, it's called playbook market fit. And that is exactly where we are. Avium Origins, which is the launch coming up actually on the 25th of January. It's the exact playbook we're trying to prove, because the Avium Origins is an original content series that we are hoping to start to be speaking to the major distributors using the Web3 method. And this will be the first Web3 media that goes to the big screens.
Interesting. So walk us through that. Like if I take part of Avium Origins, what do I get as an end user?
So I think as end user, the starting point must be, you must be interested in this. I mean, let's start from there. Okay, but imagine if 50 years ago or X number of years ago, you owned a piece of, let's say, Captain America or Iron Man or one of these comics. I think the journey of a fan to see his character and what he holds go from the comic, to a video game, to a big screen. I think that ownership journey of being proud of what your community is doing and succeeding is really exciting. I think ultimately it is that experiential journey of that ownership journey that cannot be taken away. From a financial point of view, obviously, the thesis is that if something becomes more popular, then obviously the demand for that product increases and therefore its financial value should increase, right? But that's, I think, from a financial point of view, I think the ownership journey is what we're looking at.
Got it. And how does this model work? If I take part of Avium Origins, will I be a part owner of all studios that work with Avium, or only like a specific initial set?
So this is the secret sauce, and this is what we're building. I think of owning an Avium Origins, think of an NFT as a type of asset, right? The question is, what does the asset do? What does it represent? And in Avium, the design is that Origins is our content and IP pillar. More studios will be coming in. Underlying that asset is what I call a media library. So imagine Marvel has a media library of, all its 3D characters, its songs, its music, the environments, all of that. What that underlying asset, I think our thesis is that if you decentralize that and you open it up for people to build on and give them access to that, that is what they really own. And that can be very powerful, because not only does it incentivize people to take part, but if you are a creator and you want to build on top of that, the possibilities are limitless.
Interesting. Okay. So only people who have the Avium Origins NFT, let's say, they will be the only one who has access to this media library.
That's right. That's right. There are some technical licensing terms and all of that, but I'll leave out the legalese, but that's one of the benefits.
Interesting. Okay. Can't wait. I will definitely deep dive into this to know more. How did you stumble upon it? Were you always into IP?
So I think personally from young, I have not only been a consumer, but I think everyone's a creator at heart. There is a part of us which likes to create, right? Some people like to do podcasts, some people like to write, some people like to different things. I've always enjoyed games. I've played, I've read stories, I've read all the classics, and I guess in some way, being a lawyer is also about writing stories, if you think about it. But I think there's always a part of me which kind of like felt for this industry and knowing it. I think doing Avium was a crossroads of a lot of things. I think having the working experience, understanding incentive alignment, because the practice of law is really about aligning incentives, right? And seeing what could be done for the better that was the motivation jumping to Avium. I think having the experience, meeting the right people, going through a career, having some degree of financial stability allowed me to make this crazy move, where we will be either gloriously correct or gloriously wrong. And the jury's still out.
Fair enough. What for you? What is the big vision here? Like, what do you want to see happen with Avium, such that you think, okay, cool, I'm on the right track?
So Avium's kind of vision statement is what we call enabling passion, building dreams for Avium for all. And underlying that vision statement is a set of values that if you build for the better, you can improve the lives of people. I think the ecosystem we are trying to set up addresses certain pain points for different stakeholders. I think as a general, rule, people are being monetized in some way, which is detrimental. Aligning incentives allow us to give them a chance to do it in a better way. And on top of that, I think the discovery of good IP, good content, is quite buried under a lot of noise in today's noisy world. Don't get me wrong, Web3 is far from perfect, like far from perfect. But I think we need to strip away that noise and ask ourselves whether the technology adoption coupled with that social movement combined together can do something better. I think companies like Grab, for example, I think the whole movement towards the gig economy where you are your own boss has its benefits and its obviously disadvantages. But it took a while to give people the ability to kind of, own their own jobs, do something, work remotely. I think a lot of these social movements take a while to kind of move into, because think about it, right? Technology has been around, like streaming or work from home, remote technology has existed for a long time. But there are certain crossroads in the world where potentially you see a new business model and business form evolving. I think for Web3, it just feels like this is the time. You have macroeconomic in Web2 coming down. You have the attention economy being questioned. You have, the world's in a very interesting state. And to be honest, every industry is down, right? I think this is the opportunity to kind of look at where you can redefine things and how to do things for the better, which is why I think the crossroads is here today.
Yeah, fair enough. Exactly. We're still kind of early, and we're still building for the future of Web3. You mentioned ecosystem a while ago. Can you tell us more about that? You shared us one example of the animation studio. What is this ecosystem that Avium is trying to build and who, for the stakeholders who benefit?
So it's quite funny. I think sometimes, amongst the team, we ban the word ecosystem. Like, I stop using all these buzzwords. Ecosystem, infrastructure, so many of these like big. Okay, I think to simplify it, right? An ecosystem is just a combination of a number of stakeholders producing value for the benefit of each other. Think of a country, or even a town, right? A town which has a coffee shop, a barber, a butcher, a coffee farmer. I think that forms the basis of an ecosystem where they interact with each other. I think ecosystems enable things. Think of, the statement, I think there was a point in time in, let's say, Singapore, where they said, okay, we need to build up the startup ecosystem. And I was around then, right? So they wanted to have more VCs here, providing financing and funding. They wanted to have more incubators, providing knowledge. They obviously wanted more founders to start. They needed to look at the legal regime to say, how do we enable them to start better? What licensing do we need? What's the best way? I think if you look at the Avium ecosystem, what we are trying to do is really to gather the right stakeholders to improve this. And to us, if you look at a publishing, media, and gaming ecosystem, what will you need? Number one, you need people. You need the community interested. Number two, you need what I call distribution channels. How do you attract attention, right? So in terms of the esports teams or the media assets, I think these are the front-facing attention-generating assets. You need capacity. You need the studios themselves who are producing these things, so which is why we've onboarded those studios. You need financiers. You need a film, media financiers, which is why we did a fundraising round in August where we raised funds from some institutional investors. But what they also provide by nature of the investment is that they are at the Web3 level looking at Web3 investments. You need the lawyers, the consultants, the accountants, the PR firms go to market. I think gathering all those stakeholders are what we need. What Avium is as a business is that we obviously look at the go-to-market. How do we build the community? How do we bring it there? And then for the rest, where we don't have those expertise, we partner with deep experts, which we call our ecosystem partners. It's almost like Singapore. Let's say they don't know how to produce fast food. They say, hey, McDonald's, come here. Join the Singapore ecosystem, build in here, bring value to this. There will be people, there will be funding, and together we will prosper together. That's what we are, that's where we are working towards, and the grand vision and success statement.
Awesome. Where are you now? Well, what is the ecosystem? What can people feel and see?
So we're very fortunate. We did our first fundraise last year in about July, August. At the same time, we launched our first collection. And the first collection, the first batch of assets, just think of it that way, right? The first batch of NFTs. It was a free mint. It was earned through various things. And today it's about 3,000 to 3,005 USD trading on the market. I think so I think on the Web3 side, we've had that. In terms of our partners, we've onboarded Circle and Caravan Studio I shared earlier, who are dedicating full-time resources to building an Avium, about 200 to 250 artists and animators and developers. We've onboarded 4 esports teams. We haven't announced all of them. One of them is Geek Fam, which we have announced, playing under the banner Geek Slate. Slate is our esports arm branding name. And competing in the Dota 2 series. We already have that fundraising. We have those financing partners looking to support us and journeying with us. We have a community of over, I think, 50,000 people looking at Avium, just purely on our social kind of accounts. In terms of the attention we command just from our Dota 2 team, right? I think you're talking about tens of millions, through in the last few months, and across the year, you're looking at hundreds of millions because of the team and the attention esports command. So we've built that structure of the esports and the team, and how do we onboard esports teams. We built that structure for the media studios and animation studios and how they can onboard. We are talking to different partners to bring them on board to the Avium ecosystem. And the next milestone is, I think like I shared earlier, 25th January, where we POC our Avium Origins Mint. I'm very excited to have quite a bit of support from the various communities as well. I think we've had huge support from Beamland. So this is 9gag, right? 9gag CEO and his community have been great support. And just really building towards the next phase after this.
Awesome. Very excited. It's pretty much a lot of what I wanted to know about Avium. I think a lot of it is now leading up to the moment, as you mentioned. Let's talk about the market today and how has that affected Avium in general. Like, as a lot of people know, it's a bear market. There's a lot of crypto companies that have had a very negative outcome. Why should this not deter people from joining, especially for people who are very unaware of what exactly is Web2, not to mention Web3 gaming? Why is it legit enough for people to jump in?
I think the truth is that Web3 crypto has been tainted by a number of bad actors or non-prudent measures, on the better end. I can fully understand when people say that, they are a bit skeptical, there's concern. I think that's right. I think regardless of wherever you go to, Web2, Web3, right, you want to find people or projects or teams which are trustworthy and where you can verify that. And I think that's exactly how we want to build. Like, we are extremely transparent, sometimes to a fault, as to what we do, what our plans are, who are we building with, and all the founding teams are docs. I think to our community, we have one-on-one calls, we speak to them directly, we meet them in person. I flew around, so in December when we were doing like our kind of like Asia tour, I flew around to 4 to 5 countries to meet the community members there, just so they know there's a person there. I think the truth of the matter is that even more so in Web3, you want to build trust in a trustless world. Because blockchain technology is about trustless technology, because you don't have to rely on an intermediary. But ironically, it is even more important to build trust in a trustless world. And this is the time anybody building now, generally speaking, is either really crazy, you're a bit off, or you really believe that you can do things for the better and you have a shot here. It's a good time to find the right partners, to aggregate and to consolidate good people together. And that is what we are doing. So now it's not as rosy, the rainbows as in the bull market where liquidity is tight, but it pertains to who we are as well in how we want to build and really building for the better in a very trustworthy and transparent way.
The bear is for the building. It's when you actually see good builders.
Bear is for the building indeed. You are right.
Awesome. In that case, if somebody were interested in Avium or the Web3 space, or like in your specific industry, enabling IP, enabling these game studios get into Web3, how does one get involved? What would you advise them?
I think the interesting thing about Web3 now is that you don't have a lot of teaching content out there, right? There are some articles, of course, right? But the truth is that before an industry is defined, it's very hard to kind of reduce things to a principle where you can share knowledge with. I think to step into Web3, today, you need to participate in it. You need to be on Discord, you need to go on Twitter, you need to sync yourself into crypto Twitter, meet people. And there are amazing communities out there where you can really meet and talk to people. I would obviously say that Avium is one of them. The people here make sure that, we share all our theories, how we build, what we are building. We share this really openly for people. If you want to learn, the founding team is always open to any Avium community member. And I would share everything I know and learn because of this. And that's the opportunity. And I think the state of the market now is that you have to be in to learn. I think there are some other broader resources you can tap on. A16Z has some good material on decoupling or really breaking down what Web3 is, what they think about it. I think there are many theories, but really, I mean, even Avium has its own material. We have our Medium page, we have a Gitbook where we summarize some of these. We share some of these in our town hall meetings. But if you are around, meet the right people, speak to the right people, and have good conversations. That really is the best way to learn in the current stage of the market, which is pretty young.
Got it. Sounds good. Any favorites, both an in-person and a digital resource that you'd like to share?
I mean, there's so many, man. There are a couple. I think from Web2 case studies, let me give you some case studies I really like about this whole direct to community publishing. I gave the Reese Witherspoon example of a book club. Look at how Ryan Reynolds purchased the Wrexham Football Club and what he did after that. We look at BTS. How does BTS build its fan economy and its fan structure? We look at Tencent. How does Tencent build its ecosystem, starting from the community first? I think these are some of the inspirations and kind of Web2 case studies we are reading about. I think people forget that they think Web3 is blockchain, crypto, but like I kind of broke down earlier, I think Web3 is technology adoption together with social movement. And all the case studies kind of like give a bit more light on what this social movement is.
Awesome. I really like the Reese Witherspoon book club example. I'll definitely deep dive into the other that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Cool. In that case, any final words before we get into your social accounts?
I guess the last, shameless plug is come check Avium out. I think what we are building, there are a lot of Web3 companies. I think what we are building is really taking a lot of that Web2 discipline and coupling with Web3, the new frontier of Web3, and seeing how to build. Together, the founding team has an experience. My co-founder built one of the largest esports organizations in Southeast Asia. I've done $1 million deals across the world and structuring incentive alignment and infrastructure and deal structure across various tech companies. What we are doing is bring all the experience and seeing how we can make Web3 a better place. If you are a Web2 person looking to onboard, would love to obviously chat to anyone and share and bounce ideas as to what we're doing.
Awesome. Thanks, Nat. That was a very great chat. Looking forward to the launch of Avium Origins.
Thank you very much. It was very, very. I enjoyed myself, and thank you for having me on this show.